Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. So here's our question of the day. What is it that separates great athletes from good athletes? You know, what is it that sets the Tom Bradys, the Michael Jordans, the Serena Williams, the Tina Thompsons apart from their peers? Is it physical skill development? Years of dedicated training and practice, perhaps gifted genetics. Well, while those are certainly important, one thing that you'll find is that the best of the best will tell you that mindset and mental preparation has played just as an important role as physical preparation in their success. So how do the highest achievers think differently? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today, because my guest is psychologist and mental game coach, Dr. Delice Coffey. She is the founder of Living Well Sport and Life and the D. Coffey Foundation for Athletics and Education, as well as the author of An Athlete's Guide to Peak Performance series. Dr. Coffey specializes in sport and clinical psychology and is dedicated to improving the overall well-being of athletes, both mentally and physically, by educating and empowering them to be the best versions of themselves so that they can soar to the top in sport and life. Dr. Coffey, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you know, this is something that I think is really interesting because, you know, there's sports. It seems like it's, you know, it's American pastime, you know, baseball, apple pie, basketball, football. And, you know, of course, so many people focus on the athletic skills, the physical skills. And, you know, besides what we see in professional sports, there are so many kids in our school system starting, you know, well into, into their 8, 9, 10 years old, starting in sports and then getting in school sports in junior high and high school. And then a lot of them off to college and even beyond. It's such a big, plays such a big role in so many Americans, and so many of our lives. And it's all become part of our family. So that's what I want to talk about, because you specialize in working with kids in that age, from junior high to high school, and even into college, and even those that are moving into semi-professional sports. So let's start there. You know, why is it that so many of the greatest athletes attribute mental preparation to their ability to perform at those highest levels?
That's a great question, and that's something that we're really trying to start teaching our athletes at a young age. So once they get to the level that they're almost there, they will already have the competitive edge over the competition. What separates the good athletes from the elite athletes is their mental game. And what I mean by that, when athletes get to that level, they've put in their 10,000 hours. They have trained over and over again, and they have put in so much time developing their physical skills till they're great. They're super great. But what happens is everyone is on that level. Everyone has put in the time, put in the work, and everyone is great. So the thing that's going to separate them is how well they can focus, how well they can maintain composure, how well that they can get that mental edge and during that very difficult time when the competition is really, really close. It's the mindset is what's going to separate them and help the good athletes become great athletes and win over and over again.
You know, and one of the things that I think that you're truly gifted at is being able to break this down in a way that you know, young athletes can understand and comprehend, because especially when you're talking at the junior high level and even into the high school level, a lot of these young athletes, they're thinking, I need to run faster. I need to be stronger. I need to throw farther. They haven't quite gotten to, or they haven't had enough trauma in their lives, I guess you could say, to get their head around that importance of mindset. How is it that you've been able to translate something so critical and so important in a way that maybe some minds that haven't matured to be able to recognize that, or are able to understand it and to get their heads around that?
The key is to reach the athlete where they are. The beauty of this and what makes it so fun, my brother, he has an AAU team. He's played basketball as well, and he's gifted in helping young kids develop their talent. So we actually work together, and what I do, I speak to them on their level. And then I speak to them in a way that they can receive the information where it's still more fun-like, especially on that very, very young age. Because at the young age, if it's not fun, it's going to be hard for them to receive it. And then the other thing, building rapport with athletes at that very young age is important as well. So we spend a lot of time developing rapport and helping them see how if they get their mindset and if they focus and if they pay attention, how it can make a difference in developing their physical skills. Because if they're not focused on what they need to do on developing the physical skills, then the physical skills won't develop. So if I communicate with them in the language that they understand, on the level that they understand, they can receive it and they can grow and embrace it at that early age.
Well, like I said, that's the one thing that you are really gifted at, is being able to transfer the importance and the understanding of that, not just to the young athletes, but, parents. I'm sure that you're no stranger to how involved parents can get in a young athlete's a career. And, parents, they spend so much money on lessons and training and physical camps and, combines and that kind of thing. But I've talked to a lot of coaches, especially, in the college coaches and recruiters, and they talk about how important it is for them to see the athlete's mental, the way that they react when things don't go right, especially in team sports. And so I know that a lot of what you do is on, being able to focus and concentration and the skills of the game. But coaches, they say, they like to follow the kids out to the parking lot, see the way they talk to their parents. They like to see the way that they react when a play doesn't go their way. Is that part of what you do, is not just on focus and concentration and getting better, but also the way that they react to circumstances within the sport?
Absolutely. And the way the parents interact with the child, that is very, very important, because what happens, the parents want the children to excel just as much as the child wants to excel. But at this younger age, if you put too much pressure on them, or if you don't put the right amount of pressure on them, it would cause them to decline. About 30% of youth, they drop out of sports, and the reason being is it's not fun. So it's important to keep it fun for them as we teach them and help them grow. And what some parents don't realize is they feel like they're doing the things that they need to do by sending them to camp, making them practice, making them do extra work. All of those things are good and it's necessary. But if it's not in conjunction with what the child wants to do at that particular time, it's going to cause them to either drop out of sports or develop some type of issue of resentment, or just get depressed and frustrated and start withdrawing. Since we have this percentage of children dropping out of sport because it's not fun, that's something that we need to pay attention to. And when we start incorporating the mental part in it, then we have a higher percentage of the children staying in the sport and succeeding at the next level.
Well, one of the things that first I'd like to commend you for, but also to point out, because I don't think that that you probably get enough recognition for with what you do is that, the fact is not everyone is going to be able to ascend to the level of becoming a professional athlete. Right. And can you talk a little bit about how the mental side of sports and that mental preparation, that mental conditioning can carry over into the lifelong skills far beyond sports?
A lot of athletes get anxious for various reasons, and anxiety is something that we see on and off the court on a regular basis. So learning to control your anxiety by doing deep breathing exercise, learning to relax your mind and relax your body, that's something that's very effective on the court and outside of the court. Learning to maintain composure is another thing that's very good on the court and off the court, because if you're playing ball, you need to learn how to know your triggers, know what's going to upset you, and be able to look within yourself and calm yourself down. And you also need that in the classroom. And then a step further if you have a part-time job. So those are just a couple of examples of some mental skills that they can use on the court and off the court as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing that the time spent in this isn't lost after sports. It is something that just really benefits people throughout their life. That's really tremendous. Well, seeing that you brought that up, I have to ask. When it comes to psychology, some people, unfortunately, they feel that there's a stigma attached when it comes to talking about engaging professionals to help us, especially when it comes to the mental side of health. Do you find that can prevent some athletes from reaching their potential is by avoiding seeking that kind of help when it comes to sports?
Oh, yes, they're definitely hindering their ability to succeed if they don't seek out a mental game coach or a sports psychologist, because that's part of the puzzle. And you can't have a complete puzzle if you don't have all the pieces. One of the things that athletes have a tendency to do is to confuse mental health with mental skills training. That's two very different things. They think if they go see a sports psychologist to improve their performance, they're thinking, oh, something is wrong with me. That's more on the mental health side. So if they can truly understand and embrace what mental skills training is all about, what mental game coaches do, what mental performance coaches do, they would embrace it even more. So we do need to do a little education on the difference between a clinical psychologist and a sports psychologist, because having a sports psychologist is something that every athlete should have, especially if they want to be good where they are or make it to the next level.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the things, and hopefully we're breaking through that. We definitely saw here in this last Olympics, some of the mental sides of this and how it can affect performance and how it can affect just someone's ability to their focus, their ability, their concentration. Now I know that you work primarily in the realm of basketball, but this certainly applies to across different disciplines in sports. A lot of kids, especially when they're really serious about their sports, they are disciplined in going out and practicing or doing their reps, so things like that. And I can't remember, and I bet you could tell me, who was it, the basketball that talked about how they would do, free throws in their mind, think about that and how that actually improved performance, sometimes as well as actually physically going out and doing free throws and making those throws in their mind. What is it that is required for someone to discipline themselves to practice mental preparation as well as physical preparation? Is it something that you need to set, aside time for, just as you would with physical practice, to do that mental side of it?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, it was a research study that showed that people who practice their free throws about an hour a day, they improved 26%. And those that did visualization and just visualized doing it every day, they also improved 26%. So the difference in the two is very little. It's basically the same. So you can improve by visualizing things or imagining things because the mind cannot distinguish between what's real and what's not real. So when you're actually using imagery to enhance your performance, you actually physically practice. You're not physically practice, you're mentally practice. And mental practice is just as effective as the physical practice.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Now, you mentioned something when you talk visualization. Can you go into that just a little bit deeper and what's involved in that?
Yes, visualization imagery. People have a tendency to use those words interchangeable, and it's okay. I use visualization when I'm just asking someone to see something in their mind and just use the sense of sight. And that's the only sense that they're using. When I have them to imagine something or to use imagery, we're using all 5 of their senses. And most of the time when I work with athletes, I do more imagery because when you can use all 5 of your senses, you can get a more vivid picture of what you want the results to be. And when you can get this vivid picture of what you want the results to be, you're more likely to be successful.
So, and that's not just sitting and daydreaming, right? Because a lot of people think that that's a daydream, but this is actually repetition. Is that what you're doing? Are you doing repetitions in your head when you're doing that?
Yes, and you're also creating scenarios in which you want to get better, or you can go through the game the way you want to play. So when you get ready to actually get in the game, it's more like second nature. So it's definitely different from daydreaming. It's more of a structure and a method that you're creating these scenarios in your mind and you're replaying it over and over and over again. So once you get ready to do it, you actually have more practice in doing that thing that you visualize.
Yeah, this is just really fascinating, when it comes in thinking about this, because, I don't really think it's debatable. And when you see that the evidence that says it has, and the greatest of the greats that all talk about doing this kind of thing. I'd like to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, digging into some of your books and your training. I know you have the Athlete's Guide to Peak Performance series, where you have some books, and you also have an audio guide, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. So one of your the guides in that series is Focus Like a Champion, and focus is a discipline that. It's something that's been talked about for centuries. Even, you think back even to, you think about the monks, even, the Buddhist monks, focus and concentration is just a key foundation to clarity, to mental clarity. So talk a little bit about that. What is it that, kind of define what that championship focus is, and how someone would go about getting better at that?
Yeah, the Focus Like a Champion book is teaching the athlete to do just that, is focus. What really happens is when a coach tells you to focus, the athletes don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what it means to focus or to not focus. So this book breaks it down and it gives you action steps so you can improve your focus. One of the things to improve focus is to control distractions. So we have a saying in sports or in mental game coaching, control the uncontrollables. It's always going to be something, that's going to be going on. So the key is to be able to identify relevant cues and irrelevant cues, and then have the ability to focus on the relevant performance cues and not focus on the irrelevant cues. So when you talk about focus, it's a lot that's involved. It also involves creating goals, because in order to train your brain to focus on something, it must have something to focus on. So you want to set clear goals with clear action steps so you know what you're focusing on and how to focus on it. So those are just a few examples of how you break down focus. So to tell an athlete to just focus, we need to tell them more. We need to tell them, how do you eliminate distractions? How do you identify these performance cues? How do you set goals that's going to set me up for success? All of that falls under the umbrella of focus.
Yeah, that's just another example of how what you do with these young people and these young minds to carry over well beyond sports, because that's something that they can benefit from in so many different aspects of their life. And I think the other book in your series is really on confidence, building confidence. And I know a lot of outsiders who may not be, that in tune with sports, especially when it comes to younger athletes. They sometimes mistake confidence for cockiness, right? Which I guess is, a lot of when I talk to coaches, sports coaches, baseball, football coaches, they actually like to see a little bit of what maybe some people would call cockiness, but really what that is, I guess it's their way of fighting self-doubt, right? So can you talk a little bit about that, the importance that confidence plays in peak performance, and what distinguishes that between being, the confidence versus, being cocky, or what may be mistaken as, egotistical about their abilities.
Yeah, confidence is very important, because when you have confidence, then you're able to perform with ease, and you're able to get in the zone and stay there longer. Now, what happens if someone needs to build their confidence? This is another one of those things that we need to break down. How do you build confidence? So you want to look at the self-defeating behaviors, because if someone's confidence is low, that means they're thinking about something that they don't think that they're good at, or they're thinking about something that's continuously tearing them down. So we want to look at self-defeating behaviors, and we want to look at, why are you doubting yourself? Why do you think you're not good enough? And then replace those doubting behaviors and doubting thoughts with positive self-talk. Positive self-talk is one of those words that's been thrown around for a very, very long time, but it's really some truth and substance to that. What you say in your mind over and over again is likely to happen. We have about, I think, maybe 60 to 90,000 thoughts per day, and about 95% of them are negative, and 85% are repetitive. So if you have something negative going on in your head and 85% of them are repetitive, then you're constantly tearing yourself down. And the fact that we can't control, or the fact that we can't eliminate these negative automatic thoughts, it's important that we have something to combat that thought right away. And right away is a key word, because we don't want it to simmer in our mind. We want to have a mental toolbox of things. So when this automatic negative thought come up, we have a positive thought, or a positive statement, or a positive slogan that can kind of snap us back to where we're trying to get to. And then once we get to that point, it will keep us there. So building confidence, it's about knowing things will happen and not fearing the things that will happen. It's having a plan to deal with those things when they do happen.
So it becomes kind of automatic that you confront it immediately, because what was the word you said? It wasn't immediately. Automatically. Yeah. Yes. And I can't remember the man that came up with the term ants, but that's okay. What it stands for, automatic negative thoughts. Well, I mean, it's a lot of people just don't think about, the level that this plays in sports and in life in general for some of these young athletes. I know that you do quite a bit of volunteer work with the D. Coffey Foundation for Athletics and Education, as well as with the WNBA and the Junior NBA Her Time to Play program. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with those and how that's working and how that's spreading what you're doing?
The work with the WNBA and the Junior NBA is what we talked about in the very beginning. When these young kids drop out of sports at a young age, what that foundation found is they are dropping out at a very alarming rate. So they wanted to do something. So they put the organization together to teach these kids positive mindset, positive self-talk, positive self-esteem, and how to be good children and enjoy the sport. So that organization is about keeping them in sport as long as they want to be in sport and as long as they're having fun. So that is a very nice organization, and that mission is just true to my heart because I think children should have fun. But at the same time, as adults and as coaches, if we see they have skills and they want to develop the skills, we do have a responsibility, and we must learn how to balance the two. And my foundation is an extension of that. There's a lot of kids that can't afford to be in sports. So the kids that can't afford to be in sports and they want to go to college, but the families can't afford to send them to college, our foundation is about sponsoring these kids in showcase games so they can be seen by college scouts to get a scholarship to go to college. And then once they come into the foundation, it's a holistic approach to well-being. We make sure that they have everything. And when I say everything, I mean that literally. We make sure they have everything they need to succeed in this showcase games, because we may have some kids, they can't afford tennis shoes. We may have some kids, their parents cannot have meals 3 times a day, so they come to practice hungry. If you're hungry, you can't focus. If you can't focus, you can't play. They may need a ride to the doctor's office. So in addition to the mental skills training that I would do and the physical training that my brother would do, we partner with these other specialties, and we have accountability coaches within our organization to make sure that they are plugged in exactly where they need to be. So the foundation, our mission is to work with the athlete as a whole person. We don't look at them as just an athlete, X and O's. They are a whole person, and we want them to be healthy, happy, and whole. And once they leave the organization, go off to college, we also provide them support as well, because here again, this may be new and different, and it's an adjustment. So since it's an adjustment, we want them to adjust well and succeed. So we manage them, or we hold them and help them until they do not need us anymore. And when they don't need us anymore, they join the organization and help teach other athletes.
Paying it forward. That's a great way to put it together. That really is amazing. Well, I think, and I think by now anyone listening to this realizes that you're not just creating high-performing athletes. You're creating high-performing citizens, and people that contribute not only to their own benefit and their own happiness and mental wellness and life, but just to society as a whole. So it really is a remarkable thing that you're doing, and tremendous. So I know that you are a pretty well-seasoned athlete yourself in your own right. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that inspired you to do what you do and to help these kids that you help and evolve into the adults that they evolve into as a result of what it is that they're getting from you? What inspired you to do this?
Well, as a young child growing up in junior high and elementary, I've always participated in sports. And at the time I was doing it, was just for fun and just kind of socializing. I was kind of an average athlete back there and just fun being on the team. And then I was a cheerleader for basketball and football. And my brothers, they played basketball and football. And then once I got into college, I kind of wanted to be a very good athlete. I no longer wanted to be average. I wanted to kind of be more than average. So I focused on table tennis at first, and I became an international table tennis champion. And then after that, it's like, okay, what's next? I'm out of college, so I can't play college table tennis. So I started to bodybuild. So my goal was to be a professional bodybuilder. And I started training. I did some local competitions. I got some first, second, and third. But the way I started out, I didn't take it too seriously. So the first competition, I got third place. And then once I got that third place, I realized if I get serious, then I could probably do better. So I got serious about it, and I did do better. That's when the first and the second start coming in place. So now I moved up a little bit. It's time to start going for state championships and national championships. And that became very difficult for me. It was difficult for me because I couldn't stick to my diet. We had an on-season and off-season diet. So for 12 weeks, we had to go on like this super strict diet. It's not like that today. Today, if you want to bodybuild or do any sport, it's a lifestyle. You can't just turn it on and turn it off, and that's what I was doing. So as a result of trying to turn it on and turn it off, I did not succeed as a bodybuilder. And it was very, very disappointing because that was my first love. That's what I wanted to do. So long story short, I went to the Valley of Life, and I stayed there for a little while, and that didn't help. So I climbed my way out of the Valley of Life and just got back into the gym because I enjoyed being in the gym. And while in the gym, a powerlifting girl came up to me and said, "You ought to power lift." So I'm thinking, I can't power lift. I just proved to myself I can't bodybuild. I can't do this. So I said, okay, I agreed to do it. So I started training, doing powerlifting type workouts. And I entered my first competition, and I won. So I got excited. My confidence went up. And then I started focusing even more, and I ended up breaking 10 North Carolina state records, the APA national record, and the APA world record in powerlifting. And I did that because, as I said, when I won that first one, my confidence went up. Then I started focusing more. And then I started, before each competition, I would visualize what I wanted to be. So what I found out is after my competition, this was after I broke the world record, I started studying psychology. And that's when I realized that this is a real thing. You can actually teach somebody how to do this. This is a science. This is not something that I made up and I just did it by accident. This is something really real. So that's when I started studying it. And I realized that I can actually teach people what I was doing or what I did naturally. And I just got excited. I got excited about it. I got excited about helping people because I didn't want anyone to give up on their dreams or their goals. Because even today, I think about it, I still love bodybuilding, but I love powerlifting too. But if I had known about mental skills training when I was bodybuilding, I do think the outcome would have been different. So I don't want anyone to give up on anything or any goal or any dream because of lack of knowledge. Because mental skills training is what will get you through adversity in those tough times when you need to.
Well, I could say it's something that you certainly, you have a gift for, and you've certainly worked at it yourself. You've put yourself through a lot of, not just doing it yourself, but then recognizing that it is something that can be taught and something that can be developed. And you mentioned again about, your imagery and doing things like that. And I want to circle back around real quick because also part of your peak performance series, besides the 2 books, you also do have that mindfulness and guided imagery, the audio. And I know for a lot of, young people, sometimes that may be a little bit easier. Can you kind of give us a summary of what that is, that audio, that mindfulness and guided imagery audio, what's contained in that and how that can be used to help people develop that peak performance or get more towards their true potential?
Yes, the guided imagery audio is really good because it guides you through it. It's not like telling a person, okay, listen to some music and visualize things. It actually takes you through it step by step, and it helps you develop a relaxed mindset so you can get in the zone and stay there longer. It's a guide that would teach you how to use imagery to improve your game by guiding you through the process of how you want the game to be. And it also gives you powerful affirmations. Affirmation self-talk is kind of along the same lines. So you want to make sure you have those powerful affirmations, power self-talk, so you can maintain the mindset of a champion. So using imagery and focus like a champion and building confidence, those are the first 3 things that I did to break the world record. So that's what makes me so excited about these first 3 products that I have out there.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people can be excited about this because I know a lot of people have heard about this. I'm sure people have heard the stories about, like we talked about, the visualization, especially making the free throws. But it's one thing to be aware of it, but there's another thing to really understand how to incorporate it and actually how to put it to use. And that's one thing that you're so good at, and so many people have benefited from your ability and willingness to share this with others. So I'm certainly appreciative that you came on to the show today to be able to share that. If someone wants to find out more about Dr. Delice Coffey and what you're doing and some of these these guided trainings or other things that you do, and they want to get involved in that, how would they find out more?
My website is Mindset Sports with the S, Psychology.com, and pretty much all the information is there. However, you can also find me on Instagram at Dr. D. Coffey. Facebook is Dr. D. Coffey, and my YouTube channel is Dr. Delice Coffey.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, Dr. Coffey, I want to thank you for coming on. You made a tremendous difference in so many people's lives, and I think that you really do put a spotlight on the fact that this is a lifelong benefit, and it's something that goes well beyond sports and the competition. That it's something that people can use to compete, not only in basketball, football, baseball, but something they can use to compete in life that both benefits them and the people around them. So thank you for coming on and sharing that.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks, there you have it. Definitely check out Dr. Delice Coffey. We're going to put those links on the show post. Also, you can check out her Athlete's Guide to Peak Performance series. Those are available on Amazon. We'll put some links to those as well. Until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.